Harley prices just crashed, and nobody warned you. Dealers are dumping brand new bikes for thousands under stickers. Models that used to hold value like gold are now cheaper than a used Softail. That's not normal, that's panic. The guys who buy this week will save enough to rebuild an engine. The ones who wait, they'll pay double when the rebound hits. This isn't hype, it's your wallet's wake-up call. I'll show you the 7 models losing value the fastest and which one you can steal today before Harley jacks the price right back up. Number 7. Harley-Davidson Sportster S. The Sportster has carried Harley pride for generations, but this new version speaks a language some riders barely recognize. It is faster, cleaner, and sharper than ever, yet for many, the heartbeat feels different. Beneath its new curves and digital polish lies a machine that chases performance more than presence, and that tension is why it opens this list. On paper, the numbers impress. The torque is immediate, the acceleration fierce, and the handling precise enough to challenge bikes far beyond its heritage class. Yet numbers alone do not define a Harley. For older riders who remember the shake and growl of the 883 or the Ironhead before it, this modern rebuild feels almost surgical. The raw pulse that once rolled through every gear has been replaced by refinement. The growl has softened, the vibration muted, and with that polish comes distance from its roots. The Sportster once symbolized entry into the Harley family, a first handshake that turned into lifelong loyalty. It was simple to wrench on, cheap enough to dream about, and carried the unmistakable sound that drew attention at idle. This new version trades that simplicity for sensors, ride modes, and screens. Technology makes it capable, but it also makes it less approachable for riders who measure trust in wrench time rather than firmware updates. Still, there is beauty in its strength. The chassis feels solid, the throttle immediate, and the seat position lower and more aggressive. It corners harder than any Sportster before it, and for some, that alone redeems the change. Younger riders may find it modern and muscular, something that keeps Harley relevant in a decade where nostalgia can no longer sell every bike. But among traditionalists, the silence between shifts speaks louder than the roar that used to fill it. It is a machine caught between two generations, one that lived for sound and steel, and one that values speed and control. Dealers see that divide every day. Rows of the new Sportster line the floor, admired but often left untouched, because admiration and belonging are not the same thing. The Sportster S proves that reinvention can impress without inspiring, and progress can polish away the very grit that made a name sacred. It delivers 121 horsepower from a 1,252 cubic centimeter Revolution Max engine, producing 94 pound-feet of torque. Stopping power comes from a full anti-lock braking system with cornering control. Suspension is handled by an inverted front fork paired with a link-mounted rear monoshock for balance and feedback. Wet weight stands at roughly 502 pounds, with a seat height of about 29.5 inches. The starting price is $16,399. The next motorcycle on this list shows a different kind of struggle, one where affordability promised opportunity, yet value slipped away the moment the key turned. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Street 500 and Street 750. The Street Series was built with good intentions. It aimed to open the door to the Harley world for new riders, a simpler way to feel part of something bigger without paying the premium of the touring line. For riders who grew up hearing the rumble of a big twin but never thought they could afford one, it looked like a dream. Then reality arrived. The numbers alone seemed perfect for what Harley promised: affordable, light, approachable. Yet in the eyes of longtime riders, something essential was missing. Harley has always been about presence, about that deep, slow thump you feel through the bars when a big engine breathes. These two bikes replaced thunder with a hum. They were quiet, polite, and built for city streets. But Harley has never been about politeness.
Let's see.
On the open road, they lacked the stamina and confidence that define the brand. Owners quickly found themselves torn. For beginners, the low seat height and smooth clutch made early rides easy, but seasoned riders who tried them felt disconnected. The throttle lacked character, the weight felt unbalanced at highway speed, and the fit and finish betrayed the badge. Plastic panels rattled where steel once sang. The paint lacked depth, the chrome disappeared, and even the sound, once a point of pride, felt like a whisper in traffic. For a company built on legacy, these details cut deep. The Street Series also struggled to find an identity in a market filled with strong rivals. Honda's Rebel, Yamaha's Bolt, and Indian's Scout 60 offered similar entry-level options, but they did it with more refinement, power, and personality. The street models looked stripped down, almost unfinished beside them. Even within Harley's own lineup, they seemed isolated, too small for the loyalists, too heavy for the true beginners. Dealers hoped the street bikes would bring in a new generation, but most younger riders leaned toward used cruisers with bigger hearts and better stories. Over time, the street line became the forgotten corner of the showroom. What was meant to invite new blood ended up dividing old faith. For Harley loyalists, price alone could never buy belonging. The Street 575 proved that saving a few $1,000s means little if pride stays parked. They remain a lesson written in chrome and compromise. A reminder that the Harley name carries weight no lightweight can replace. Each of these bikes was powered by Harley's liquid-cooled Revolution X engine, producing about 53 horsepower in the 750 and 35 horsepower in the 500. The 750 carried 749 cubic centimeters, while the smaller version packed 494 cubic centimeters. Torque output hovered near 47 and 35 pound-feet respectively. Both models used an anti-lock braking system with a single front disc and rear disc setup, traditional telescopic front forks with twin preload adjustable shocks at the back, a wet weight around 500 pounds, and a seat height near 28 inches. Starting prices were $7,695 for the 500 and $8,499 for the 750. The next bike on this list proves that even bold design and raw strength cannot save a machine built for speed, but not for comfort. If you've ever owned a Harley that deserved better, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Tell us which model you think never got the respect it earned. Number 5. Harley-Davidson FXDR 114. The FXDR was built to turn heads before it turned miles. It was Harley's attempt to blend brute power with modern styling, a drag-inspired cruiser meant to prove that muscle and innovation could live in the same frame. It looked fast even while standing still, every angle sharpened for presence. Yet, while the look promised dominance, the ride delivered something very different. Beneath its bold exterior lay a machine that tested patience more than performance. The first impression of the FXDR was electric. The long, low body line stretched across a massive rear tire, and the stripped-down tail section made it look like a street-legal drag bike. Riders expected that stance to deliver explosive performance on open asphalt, and to some degree, it did. The torque hit hard, launching the bike forward with the familiar Harley surge that forces a grin. But soon after the thrill came fatigue. The ergonomics of the FXDR demanded a lean that strained wrists, back, and shoulders. Forward foot controls and a flat handlebar pulled the rider into an aggressive posture that looked tough but punished endurance. What felt strong at the stoplight turned stiff after 20 minutes of highway travel. Cornering also revealed another compromise. That wide 240-section rear tire gave the bike its distinctive silhouette, but it robbed it of nimbleness. On winding roads, the FXDR required more effort to lean and resist the curve. It was a motorcycle built for straight lines, not switchbacks, and the heaviness at low speed made urban riding feel like a chore. Even though the engine roared with authority, the handling left riders disconnected from the road. Harley's loyal base wanted a cruiser with attitude and comfort. The FXDR delivered the first and ignored the second. The bike's identity stood somewhere between performance experiment and design showcase. Its aluminum swing arm and composite bodywork were technical leaps for Harley, but the trade-off came in practicality. Luggage options were limited, The seat was built for one, and fuel economy offered little range for long rides. Riders who bought it for power alone found themselves owning a motorcycle too specialized for everyday use. Despite its flaws, the FXDR still carries a certain magnetism. On the street, it draws eyes the way few machines can. Its exhaust tone is deep and unapologetic, a reminder that Harley still knows how to build emotion into steel. But when the thrill fades and comfort matters, the FXDR becomes more sculpture than companion. It delivered roughly 90 horsepower from a 1,868 cubic centimeter Milwaukee 8 engine, producing 119 pound-feet of torque. Braking came through a full anti-lock braking system with dual front discs and a single rear disc. Suspension featured an inverted front fork combined with a coilover monoshock mounted to a lightweight aluminum swing arm. The wet weight measured about 680 pounds. The seat height sat near 27 3/4 inches, and the starting price hovered around $21,499. The next motorcycle on this list proves that even when innovation meets speed, losing the classic heartbeat can turn strength into silence. While we're talking about saving money, don't overlook your gear. I've dropped links in the description for solid helmets and accessories at real-world prices. Let's get back to it. Number 4. Harley-Davidson V-Rod. The V-Rod was Harley's boldest step away from its own shadow. It was built for speed, engineered for a new audience, and styled like nothing else that had ever carried the bar and shield. For the first time, Harley looked across the ocean for inspiration and teamed with Porsche to craft something that could fight the metric power cruisers head-on. On the spec sheet, it worked. On the open road, it thrilled. But for the faithful, it never sounded or felt like home. The first twist of the throttle told the truth. The V-Rod was unlike any Harley before it, high revving, liquid-cooled, and almost surgical in response. The acceleration was instant, the balance tight, and the frame solid under load. It was quick, confident, and technically superior to most cruisers of its era. But the very things that made it fast also made it foreign. The traditional shake and slow pull of a big twin were gone, replaced by a smooth hum that felt borrowed from another world. The design alone set it apart. The long, low frame, the thick rear tire, and the stretched fuel tank line gave the bike a drag strip silhouette that commanded attention. In daylight, the metal shimmered like a muscle car under chrome. At night, the thin headlight cut a mean streak through traffic. Yet that sharpness came at a price: comfort. The V-Rod's riding position leaned the rider forward, loading wrists and shoulders after only a short ride. The small 3.7-gallon tank demanded frequent stops, reminding every long-distance rider that this machine was meant for the sprint, not the haul. Harley loyalists tried to connect with it. They customized it, swapped pipes, and tuned it to sound rougher, but underneath the roar, it remained a different animal. The Revolution engine lacked the traditional pulse that carried the brand's soul. Riders who grew up with the deep cadence of the Shovelhead or the rumble of the Evo felt disconnected from its polished efficiency. Even the customization scene struggled to find its rhythm. Parts were scarce, and modifications cost more than most were willing to spend on a bike that already felt divided. Still, the V-Rod deserves respect. It carried risk, innovation, and the courage to evolve. It gave Harley a modern edge and introduced performance numbers that rivaled European and Japanese machines. But numbers are only half the story. The rest lies in the feeling, something the V-Rod never fully captured. It was a marvel of engineering that left the heart searching for thunder. It produced around 120 horsepower from a 1,252 cubic centimeter Revolution engine, delivering 84 pound-feet of torque. Braking came from a full anti-lock braking system with dual front discs and a single rear disc. The suspension featured an inverted front fork with twin rear shocks tuned for stability. Wet weight stood at about 670 pounds. Seat height was near 26 3/4 inches, and the starting price when new was roughly $16,999. The next motorcycle on this list takes that same pursuit of modern performance but trades agility for posture, proving that even progress can stumble when style outruns comfort. Number 3. Harley-Davidson Street Rod. The Street Rod began as a bold idea, a smaller Harley built to fight on a different battlefield. It aimed to mix American muscle with sport-inspired handling, chasing riders who wanted the name but demanded agility. On paper, it promised attitude and energy in a tighter frame. In reality, it became a reminder that some traditions should not be trimmed. Those numbers built expectations. Riders saw a Harley with sport bike ambition, a machine tuned for quick bursts through city traffic and short highway sprints. The performance was better than its street siblings, with stronger mid-range pull and improved braking confidence. It looked more aggressive too, shorter tail, tighter stance, and flatter bars that brought the rider forward into the action. But under that sharp posture was a compromise that most riders felt within the first few miles. The seating triangle that promised control instead delivered tension. High-mounted pegs and a compact frame forced the rider's knees high and close, a setup that worked for shorter commutes but punished longer rides. For tall riders, the position bordered on painful. It was a sporty stance on a bike that lacked the smoothness to make it comfortable. Harley wanted aggression. What it delivered was awkwardness. The styling divided opinion as well. The Street Rod looked modern, but it drifted far from the classic silhouettes that define the brand. The frame was solid, but the finish carried too many rough edges. Panels fit loosely, and vibration left trim pieces rattling after only a few thousand miles. For a company known for craftsmanship, that stung. The sound, though deeper than most entry-level cruisers, never reached the heavy cadence that older riders crave. Without that low growl, the personality faded fast. In the market, competition made matters worse. Bikes like the Honda CB650R, Yamaha MT-07, and Kawasaki Z650 offered more horsepower, smoother handling, and lighter frames for similar money. Against those rivals, the Street Rod felt heavy, stiff, and unfinished. It had the badge, but not the balance. Younger riders who wanted speed looked elsewhere, while Harley loyalists saw a bike that neither honored tradition nor dominated performance. The Street Rod remains a lesson in good ambition, but flawed execution. Harley proved it could engineer agility, yet it lost the ease that defines a cruiser. The bike handled corners but forgot comfort, spoke rebellion but missed resonance. For some, it was an experiment worth remembering. For most, it was one better left in the catalog's past pages. It produced about 68 horsepower from a 749 cubic centimeter Revolution X engine delivering 47 pound-feet of torque. Stopping came through a full anti-lock braking system with dual front discs and a single rear disc. Suspension was handled by an inverted front fork paired with dual gas-charged rear shocks for improved cornering stability. Wet weight measured around 518 pounds, with a seat height close to 30 inches. The starting price was $8,699. The next motorcycle on this list continues that push toward reinvention, but carries its risk to new terrain, where power meets adventure and faith meets uncertainty. If you love real Harley talk, no fluff, no hype, hit subscribe now. Every week, we break down the truth behind the chrome so riders like you never get left behind. Number 2, Harley-Davidson Pan America 1200. The Pan America was built to prove that Harley could do more than rumble down Main Street. It was the company's first true adventure motorcycle, a machine designed to leave the pavement behind and chase the horizon across mud, gravel, and mountain passes. For decades, Harley's image rested on chrome and comfort. The Pan America aimed to add courage to that list. It was a bold move that drew attention from every corner of the riding world. Yet boldness alone cannot guarantee belonging, and that is where the story of this machine begins. On paper, the numbers looked strong enough to challenge European legends like the BMW GS and the KTM Adventure Series. In practice, the Pan America impressed many who doubted Harley's reach. The engine was smooth, the throttle response crisp, and the adjustable suspension made it surprisingly manageable for a bike of its size. Riders who tried it in the dirt found real balance and traction, while highway cruisers admired its stability at speed. It was a technical success and a cultural risk rolled into one machine. But with new ground came new lessons. Many early owners reported small frustrations that grew with time: finicky electronics, uneven low-speed manners, and a top-heavy feel when maneuvering through traffic or tight terrain. For shorter riders, even the adaptive ride height could not always mask the weight. While the Revolution Max engine delivered reliable power, it lacked the slow, thunderous heartbeat that longtime Harley owners expected. For an adventure bike, silence and smoothness are virtues, but for Harley's faithful, they felt like an absence. The styling also drew divided opinions. The angular front fairing and squared headlight made it look more industrial than iconic. For some, it was a brave new design. For others, it felt like a departure too far from Harley's proud lineage. Riders accustomed to chrome tanks and sweeping lines struggled to see themselves in a bike built for mud rather than miles of asphalt. Still, the Pan America earned respect from critics who judged it purely on performance. It worked, and it worked well. In the end, the Pan America represents both progress and paradox. It shows Harley's will to evolve while reminding everyone that identity cannot be rebuilt in a single model year. Adventure riders learned that Harley could compete. Traditionalists learned that progress can sound unfamiliar. It is a motorcycle that carries promise, weight, and a bit of rebellion against its own heritage. It produced 150 horsepower from a 1,250 cubic centimeter Revolution Max engine, delivering 94 pound-feet of torque. Braking was managed by a complete anti-lock braking system with linked braking and cornering control. Suspension came through a semi-active setup with electronically controlled damping and an optional adaptive ride height that automatically adjusted to the rider's position. Wet weight measured around 534 pounds. Seat height adjusted between 30 and 34 inches depending on setup, and the starting price was $17,399. The next and final motorcycle on this list brings us back to the heart of Harley itself, a flagship of luxury and power that shows what happens when pride costs more than purpose. Number 1. Harley-Davidson CVO Street Glide. The CVO Street Glide stands at the top of Harley's mountain, a monument to luxury, craftsmanship, and heritage. It is the crown jewel of the touring family, built to showcase the finest materials and most advanced technology that the brand can offer. Every inch of it carries pride, from the hand-laid paint to the flawless stitching on the seat. Yet that same pursuit of perfection has created distance between Harley and the riders who built its name. The CVO Street Glide may be the peak of comfort, but it also marks the point where loyalty starts to question cost. On paper, the specifications are impeccable. It has more power, smoother response, and sharper handling than any Street Glide before it. The ride feels effortless, the torque endless, and the finish flawless. The frame remains steady even under acceleration. The suspension soaks up rough pavement like silk, and the brakes respond with quiet authority. The Milwaukee 8 121 engine defines refinement, strong, predictable, and composed. It is everything a flagship should be. But the story of the CVO Street Glide goes beyond engineering. It is about emotion, perception, and the invisible line between pride and practicality. For the average rider, the question begins at the price tag. $54,900 buys not just a motorcycle, but a statement. It is a commitment that stretches beyond the wallet, a declaration of status within the Harley Brotherhood. Yet that same figure now makes many longtime owners pause. For nearly half the cost, one can ride home on a standard Street Glide that shares much of the same comfort, power, and design language. The differences, while notable, are no longer enough to convince every buyer that exclusivity is worth the premium. Riders who have spent decades with the brand often see the CVO Street Glide as a symbol of both achievement and separation. It shines brightest at rallies and events, where its polished chrome and deep paint command attention. But on quiet highways, it reminds some of how far Harley has drifted from the gritty simplicity that built its name. The built-in sound system, The large touchscreen and the endless accessories feel more like luxury touring than open-road rebellion. For older riders who grew up on less is more machines, that change carries a hint of loss. Still, the CVO Street Glide remains a masterpiece of mechanical art. It offers comfort unmatched in its class, power to conquer any highway, and an unmistakable presence wherever it rides. It is a machine for those who want the best Harley can build and are willing to pay for it. But beneath that excellence lies a truth older than any model year. Heritage cannot be priced. It delivers 115 horsepower from a 1982 cubic centimeter Milwaukee 8 121 engine, producing 139 pound-feet of torque. Braking is handled by a complete anti-lock braking system with cornering control and linked braking. Suspension includes high-performance front forks with premium rear shocks, both fully adjustable for comfort and precision. Wet weight measures around 875 pounds. Seat height rests near 26.5 inches, and the starting price stands at $54,900. The CVO Street Glide stands as both an icon and a warning. It shows how far Harley-Davidson can reach when it chases perfection, and how easily that reach can outpace its roots. Riders will always admire it, but many will continue to ask if the soul of Harley still lives beneath the gloss. In the end, the CVO Street Glide proves that greatness and excess often ride the same road, separate only by the cost of pride. The road never lies. Markets rise, prices fall, but pride endures. These 7 bikes remind us that legacy isn't measured in dollars. It's carved into miles, memories, and the roar that never fades. When the showroom's empty, riders remain. Because chrome dulls, engines change. But the brotherhood of the open road, our bond, our freedom, outlasts every model year, every price tag, every storm.